So back in the day, here's a Joe old guy story. I used to have my team read because it was really cool for us to kind of get out of the trenches and what we did every day and get to 30,000 feet and look at like how a business does a better job. And so we talk about customer service, we talk about financial planning, we talk about how Disney delights people. My team said, this is funny, my team said they hated it. But it was also funny when I'd see them use the lessons and parrot the stuff that we talked about every day when we worked together after that. So the proof was in the pudding, right? They actually, I think, liked it. But I totally jumped the shark. For those of you who don't know that reference, I totally went overboard when I went to a book called The Art of War. And for those of you that don't know what The Art of War is, it's a book about ancient Chinese lessons on war that business people use every day. And my whole team went, really, Joe? Really? Former military college guy. Now we're talking about the battlefield. I'm the only person that liked it. However, there is one huge lesson from The Art of War that's going to pertain to everything we talk about on today's show. And it's this. When it comes to business or any conflict on your life, always define your own battlefield. Live from my mom's half-finished basement and somewhere above Manhattan. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy. I'm the one in the basement, and the person skying above Manhattan is...
Hey, everyone. I'm Bobby Rebell, Joe's co-host. Am I your official co-host yet?
You are the co-host.
Do I get to stay?
She's, really? I get to stay? That'd be fantastic.
Really?
Yes. Mom would rather have you here in the basement, making you cookies and stuff. But we've got her from Manhattan, and this is the show where we go over not one, but two headlines ripped from the financial press, and today the entertainment press as well. And not only do we read them like some shows do, we also tell you what they might mean for your wallet and how you can do a better job with your money or your career or just your financial life in general. That is Money in the Morning. Money in the Morning is brought to you today by Lemonade. Forget everything you know about insurance. Instant everything, killer prices, big heart. It's funny, when I went to get my renter's insurance, when we were renting for 6 months, I went to Lemonade. Went back again when I bought our new house next to Mom's house here. Check it out. StackyBenjamins.com/lemonade. 90 seconds to look at that. 90 seconds. We've got 30 minutes of fun, Bobby. 30 minutes of fun for everybody.
30 minutes of fun.
Yes. So why don't we get the party started? Laura?
And now, your first Money in the Morning headline.
I think it would have been funny if sometimes she'd say, now your second headline. And then everybody goes, oh, crap, I missed one. I mean, is that just my sense of humor? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. She's like, yes.
It is just your sense of humor.
Yes, Joe, that's not funny at all. By the way, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm very busy drinking coffee. I hadn't had coffee yet today. And then when we were setting up, you said you were going to go get coffee. So I went to get coffee too.
This is as if
now
I need
I'm drinking coffee.
This is mug number 2 of coffee for Joe. So yeah. we are rolling.
No one can see it, but Joe has a much fancier mug than I do.
Rebecca says she's eating plum pudding. We do this live in front of a Facebook audience. Is she eating plum pudding? Is that what the plum pudding comment is?
Yes. Maybe she can clarify, Rebecca.
How about that? Well, probably not drinking plum pudding, so I got to go with eating. Our first thing today, Bobby, comes to us from the New York Post. You actually brought this
one of my favorite publications.
Yes.
But it is actually, I should say, it's by Associated Press.
It is by Associated Press, correct. And
we want to credit fairly.
Found it in the New York Post. Starbucks partners with Uber Eats to expand coffee delivery. Starbucks is expanding its delivery service and aims to offer it at nearly 1/4 of its U.S. company-operated coffee shops. The company said it's launching the service Tuesday in San Francisco and will expand to some stores in New York, Boston, Washington, Chicago, and L.A. in coming weeks. It tested the idea in 200 Miami stores last fall. Starbucks says 95% of its core menu will be available for order using the Uber Eats mobile app. There'll be a $2.49 booking fee. In December, company executives laid out plans to expand deliveries in the U.S. and China this year. Very short article, but I think there's a lot here, Bobby, for people to get from this. Let's dig into it.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a partnership. So it's interesting because Starbucks already has delivery, but they're bringing in Uber Eats. So that says something. That says that they value the network that they have. Maybe they value the systems that they have. There must be something value add to Uber Eats.
Well,
why Starbucks is doing that, because they could, in theory, do it themselves.
Well, and think about it this way, too. If there's something that you're not great at, you don't have to go work for somebody. You don't have to bring on permanent help. But partnerships now really today are the way that the world goes. I mean, it's so much easier to be a master of one thing and then delegate out all the things you're not great at. And I think recognizing what you're great at and what you're not great at and then partnering for the rest is a huge way to win.
It is a huge way to win. And I think that it's more and more common with many different companies that they partner on. And also, let's not forget that they also then get the brand and they also get the marketing, because people that like the Uber Eats brand are now going to maybe feel more comfortable, or maybe even just get the idea to order in from Starbucks, when normally that's not really something we order in Chinese food, we order in burgers or whatever, or barbecue, but we don't always say, hey, let's order in Starbucks.
Yeah.
But now that will be more top of mind because it'll also be presented to the Uber Eats customers.
And that's half of it being top of mind. Like how can Starbucks be top of mind even more than they are already? And not have to create a whole new division, not have to change the service that they already offer. Because for some reason, like you said earlier, clearly it's not working the way they want, apparently, if they're partnering
there is
with
Starbucks delivery.
Yeah. So, or maybe it's just on top of Starbucks delivery. Maybe they're just giving you another option if you're comfortable working through Uber.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I want to take this to a different level, though. I was thinking about this in terms of your financial plan. Yeah. A lot of people think that with your financial plan, you have to do every single thing that you're good at and can't delegate other stuff. I'll tell you this, when I was a financial planner, a lot of people delegated to me that were smart enough to do this themselves. Like, I'll give you an example. The head of the minivan platform at Chrysler, which is right up the road from my office in Detroit when I was practicing, was a client of mine. This guy had an MBA. He was amazing. Even more amazing than that, the woman who negotiated on behalf of Chrysler with the IRS at the time, she was one of their IRS negotiators. She knew everything about tax law. She knew so much about finance. I was her financial planner. And it wasn't because she couldn't do it. It was because of the fact that she wanted to focus on that one key task that she was really good at, and then make sure she had good people around her that did other things. And I think it's funny that a lot of the time I see people, they will handle everything without really doing the math first. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some times in your career where handling all the little stuff yourself makes sense. But there was a time in my career where if I didn't grocery shop, I could use that same exact time to make a lot more money in my practice. So having somebody else do my grocery shopping was a fantastic use of money,
Yeah.
And then,
and I think when you're growing a business, that's also something that you have to really focus on. I mean, I have somebody that edits my other podcast, Financial Grown Up, and I now brought on an assistant so that I would free up the time to do this project. And that delegating has been really hard for me because everything that they are doing, in theory, I could do. Now, they actually do some things a lot better than I do, more efficiently than I do, but they're focused on it. And that allows me to focus on other things.
Yeah, to be great at that one core activity or those few core activities, instead of getting off in a bunch of different areas. How cold is this coffee when it gets to? I can't imagine Starbucks.
Okay, so I pulled up some other articles for some fun facts. So first of all, Starbucks said it developed new packaging to maintain coffee temperature during 30-minute delivery. So they're saying it's going to come within 30 minutes, and there's special packaging. So you should get the coffee pretty hot in theory. And also, by the way, you talk about partnerships and someone that's good at this. So Uber Eats is the fastest growing meal delivery service, meals, not coffee, meals delivery service in the US, growing at 150% annually. So that may be a benefit. People are going to order meals.
Yeah, that's the key.
That may be the pitch, that it's the meal. Because if they order through Uber Eats, the person that's going to Uber Eats is looking for a meal. The person that may go to Starbucks directly having 4 coffees delivered. So maybe you up the total price of the order by having it go through Uber Eats, and the person that's coming to Uber Eats wants a bigger order because they're eating a meal.
Yeah, and I don't use Uber Eats, but I'm guessing that I can go to Uber Eats and look at a menu and all the different places that I might be able to order from. So for Starbucks, maybe it's just a way, getting on that menu is like additional advertising, right?
Huge. Absolutely. All the eyeballs. And like I said, it's the fastest growing meal delivery service in the United States. So there you go.
I think our takeaway here is partnerships. Partnerships are huge, whether it's you and your financial planning, if you're running a business, like thinking about who you partner with and what you focus on is big. And testing. We didn't talk a lot about testing, but this idea that Starbucks first tested this in Miami, and they're not just testing it about feel good. I'm sure they're running metrics, right? About how much money they made and was it worth whatever they're paying to get that done? How does it, how does that jive with everything else that they're doing?
And the data available is just huge between these two companies, what they can learn about people for good or for bad, it's out there, but that's a lot of what's happening too.
Yeah. Let's say hi to our friends here hanging out with us on Facebook. Rebecca, when she was talking about pudding, she said that I said, and I did say that the proof was in the pudding. And she said plum pudding, what fun it is. Now I get it.
Makes sense.
We're moving fast, Rebecca, and I'm behind. So nice job there. She's too fast for me. And Rebecca says value add. Who said value add was good? I'm retired, so I do not add value. Not true, but value added is always a good thing, I think. And then Rebecca says, we rely on you to help us. I totally agree that delegating so we can focus on our own expertise. I think that's what's in your, focus what's on your wheelhouse. Kimberly's here. Kimberly says, Bobby, she loves your research and she actually feels like she's learning something.
I'm sorry.
For the first time in a Stacking
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you.
In a Stacking Benjamins related show, somebody is learning something. Yes. Hillary says, if you order through Uber Eats and have Amex Platinum, you can use your Uber credit there. Great for those of us who don't Uber places but want that $15 Uber credit each month to be used for something. Oh, there you go.
It is useful. Yeah.
$15 credit, get hopped up on Starbucks.
Yeah, we get 15. We have that platinum card, and for my family, and we get that $15 credit. And I never thought about using it for Uber Eats.
It's a great idea. Glenn says David Bach might have a problem with ordering a latte and having it delivered.
He would. Yes. We are both friends with David, by the way, who has a book coming out. Let's plug David's book. The book is called The Latte Factor. And I actually got to read it because I got to endorse it.
Oh, show off.
And
I got to endorse it.
Good book. There's my plug for David. Hey, David.
That is, yeah. And he'll be on. I'm sure he'll be on.
It's very creative the way that he did it. Long overdue.
I'm sure he'll be back on Financial Grown Up. He'll definitely be back on Stacking Benjamins talking about it again.
Yep.
Let's move on to our second piece. Anybody familiar with this woman, Marie Kondo? How can you stay? It's funny. Ryan is hanging out with us on Facebook, and he said he'd never heard of Marie Kondo until the beginning of this month, and now he can't go a day without hearing about her. Marie Kondo is everything everybody's talking about, Bobby.
I know. I sit there watching. I've watched all 8 episodes and done nothing, but I aspire to. I talk about tidying. It's kind of like if you sit and watch an exercise show or a show about eating better while eating Ben and Jerry's. But maybe I'll get there.
It's
at
like
some point.
It's like going
limited because I'm in an apartment, so it can't get that bad. It's not like I've got a garage like those people on the show, but I'm gonna work up to it.
Going to the gym with Ben and Jerry's and sitting like in front of the machines, just watching
that
people
would be really bad.
Might be awkward. I went and luckily, because we're just finishing up this move, I was able to use it as I was unpacking boxes. So as I was and I didn't use her official steps, but everything I went through, I'm like, does this spark joy? And 7 boxes of books. 7 boxes of books went to the library.
You paid to transport, though. You threw them out before or after?
I know. No, after. Of course. You know what, though? We
moved them and then you threw them out?
We had gotten rid of a bunch of books before we went. But you're right. Yeah, but better late than never. Come on. Work with me
absolutely.
here. Yes.
We have a lot of books here.
This comes to us from CNN Entertainment and is written by AJ Willingham and Andrea Diaz. Netflix has people serenely bulldozing their closets
Serenely. What a word.
and thrift stores are riding the wave. Do you have too much stuff? This piece says, is your house a loosely joined collection of garbage piles among which you tread as dazed and rudderless as a possum in a landfill? Are you tied to your material possessions because you've chosen to fill the empty parts in your life with consumerism, and thus your soul is scattered among promotional t-shirts and expired tubes of body lotion? Are you, dare we say it, untidy? On New Year's Day, Netflix released the series Tidying Up with Marie Kondo, a minimalist home life improvement show based on the wildly popular 2014 book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and starring the book's author, Japanese organization expert, shocker, Marie Kondo. Needless to say, the whole experience is plunge people down their own personal trash chutes of existential crises, and thrift shops and used bookstores are reaping the benefits. The method's very simple. In the show, Kondo acts as a tiny garbage fairy for messy people, alighting on their houses and the piles of stuff therein to share the wisdom of the KonMari method. This method, which has been fairly popular for a few years thanks to Kondo's book, is simple in theory, but can be endlessly complex in practice. You divide all the stuff in your house, all of it, into several categories, and then examine each item, all of them, to see if it sparks joy. If it does, you keep it. If it doesn't, you thank it as if it were a past lover and neatly discard it. It's definitely has had an effect. Has it actually inspired people to, tidy up? It's hard to say. First-hand accounts seem to indicate a small wave of people bringing piles of donation bags to thrift stores, such as Beacon's Closet in New York City. Quote, they've been really large bags, IKEA bags, suitcases, or garbage bags. It's really hard to estimate the amount, but it's been a ton of stuff. I can say thousands of pieces a day, store manager Leah Giampetro told CNN. January is the closet's slow season for donations, Giampetro said, because it's cold and people don't want to bother. Not this January. Quote, people are determined to clean up their homes, she said. In Chicago, Ravenswood Used Books received a month's worth of books in donations in a week. We've been in this location for 4 years and people would walk up and down the street and never noticed us before, owner Jim Mull told CNN. I think a lot of people are now beginning to know us. Earlier this week, a man called to say he had thousands of books he wanted gone. So I hired a moving company and we went over there and I picked up 50 boxes of books, Mull said.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and it goes on and on. This idea of declutter, though, storming the nation.
It's hard, though. I mean, you have to go through all these things and think, does this spark joy? I mean, what do you do when it comes to, for example, not only your childhood memories, but the memories your child is accumulating? So, for example, not that it's ever happened here, but, I might have a child that didn't always come in first place, but maybe got a trophy when they weren't in first place. I mean, does that participation trophy spark joy? And do you really want to get rid of the participation trophy, especially as they take up the entire shelf? Because I haven't so many chess tournaments, soccer tournaments, whatever it is that they're playing when they're young and they're special to your child.
I haven't made it this far.
There they are.
Well, I haven't made it this far in the show, Bobby. I've made it one episode. And I did not read the book, but I'll tell you, as I was cleaning up stuff, I found some of my son's stuff. So number one, it's not mine; it's his.
Right.
When he moved to Seattle, he took one car's worth of stuff out there. I plan on giving it to him, but here's a question: to your point about medals and trophies, he's got tons of participation stuff. Yeah. He has this 8th place ribbon from a meet. Now, if it were mine, I think I'd get rid of it. But do you get rid of an 8th place ribbon or?
I know. I guess you bring them in for a consultation. But what people value really differs. I mean, I pulled up an article. I had heard this and I double checked it. James Altucher, who is an author, a podcaster, a writer, CEO, entrepreneur, whatever. Anyway, he went through this phase, and I don't know if it's still going on or not, but it was a couple of years ago where he literally threw out everything, including the idea of living in a home. So he literally became mobile, and he had a backpack, and he threw out everything, and he talks about it. And for example, he threw out his college diploma. And he says, well, society tells us a diploma is a special achievement. And this is James Altucher saying this, not me. It isn't. It's yesterday. I don't hold on to things society tells me to hold on to. which I think I kind of take issue with that. Well, it's not about society telling me to, but I want my college and my high school diploma.
Well,
They're
maybe,
very meaningful to me.
but
They spark joy. The idea, when I look at it, I think, oh, I achieved this.
but it clearly doesn't for him.
It does not for him. Right. So it's individual.
I feel that way about, I've run a bunch of stuff. I ran in college, and I have to tell, and my kids are kind of like me, like the medals, the stuff, those don't spark any joy as compared to having run in the event. Like, I remember the event, and I remember, what I did in the event, or I remember crossing the line in whatever place. And I remember all those feelings I like, but the actual medal does nothing for me. Where other people are all about the bling. I had friends that were, quote, all about the bling and really wanted that bling. For me, it's, I don't know. It's all right.
It's hard. I mean, my child's artwork sparks joy, but how much can you really keep? And a lot of the experts say, well, take a digital photo of it and make a digital album, but it's not the same.
Yeah, and when are you going to look at that digital album? You know how many
Never.
digital? I have an old computer that I have to go through because of the fact that it just has old pictures on it. Like, and Jim Gaffigan does a whole comedy bit about that, about how he's got this series of computers sitting over along a wall, that those are the 2006 pictures, those are the 2008 pictures.
Oh, no.
Because how many pictures?
It's true. Well, yeah. And I will tell you, when my son, my 11-year-old, was very young, I was almost like a book group. It was like a scrapbooking group. And I made a few scrapbooks when he was young. And I love having the tangible books that I can open and see those photos. And it is very special. And in theory, I have all those photos digitally, but there's something special about having the actual items. So I will tidy up a little bit, but I don't think I will go to the extremes that Marie Kondo.
But I think this idea of what sparks joy in your life, it reminds me of, on a tidying up version, let's bring this into finance, what Vicki Robin talks about in Your Money or Your Life, where, it's really, in my mind, the biggest philosophical book about money. And maybe we could call her, she kind of calls herself the grandmother of the FIRE movement without even knowing that I love her.
She was ahead of the labels.
She totally was. But this idea, she talks about units of joy, like for the amount that you're going to pay to buy something in your life, how much joy are you actually going to get out of it versus something that maybe you could do for less money that maybe gives you more joy. Like weighing the amount of joy you get from stuff versus immediately going to, and I have my mug with the Ferrari label, immediately going,
joy for sure.
It has a Ferrari label on it. Does that mean it's more joy or just more money?
It's whatever it is to you.
Yeah. No, that's tough stuff. And I think this idea, though, of sparks of joy I think that's what's taking the nation by storm, is this really giving me joy? And somebody said this to me recently, that over time, things that you buy tend to, maybe it was Len Penzo, things that you buy go down in
they depreciate generally.
Yeah, depreciate in your life. Like you're feeling about it. Like this mug, 10 years from now, I'll be like, oh, that mug's old. It's 10 years old. But a trip I took 10 years ago becomes epic, becomes legendary. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree. And frankly, also, even not to be super nerdy here, but financial security does often spark joy. If you go and you check on your portfolio at a reasonable intervals, not daily, hopefully, and you see it increasing because you're contributing and hopefully the market is going up, that's going to spark joy, I would think, for most people.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I could see it when I was a financial planner. I'd meet with people they hadn't looked at, this is back in the days of statements and you couldn't get online as much. Another old guy story.
Opening up the newspaper with all the teeny tiny print. My grandpa used to look at those.
That's right. And I'd show them how much money they had, and maybe it was 20,000 more than they thought they had. And it's fantastic. You could see the joy. Yes. Right. It was, and maybe that's why gambling gives off this chemical reaction,
Probably. Well, even think about imagining when you buy a lottery ticket and you imagine what you would buy.
Yeah.
It's a fantasy.
And it's all a lie, right? That's exactly it.
Statistically, it is, but you only have to be the one.
Let's see what our friends on Facebook are saying about this piece. Hillary says, we lived in Japan until this past August, and we hadn't heard of her except on Facebook from friends reading her book and purging items in their house. But watching the show, I have flashbacks to Japan.
That's interesting.
I think it's amazing. How many shows in America have we seen where there's this many subtitles that has gotten this big, right? I mean, every once in a while, there's a show with subtitles that a few people will watch, and, but this show is huge. And how much English does she speak?
Well, she does have a translator, and the people that are the subjects of each episode are speaking in English. So it's a balance. It's not that much. And there are also words on the screen.
No, but I love it.
Yeah, it's also her demonstrating. Is she has a way about her that I think really appeals to people and is very calming. And the show sparks joy, Joe.
It does.
I think it does. It makes you feel like this is possible. It is aspirational, but it also feels like you could do this.
Marie Kondo, if you want to sponsor the show, it's either right to Bobby or I. We'd be happy to talk joyfully about you. Glenn says we have cardboard boxes for the kids where there are grades and awards, and we have them in a box, which we'll give to them when they're old. Joe, I'm keeping my Boston Marathon finisher medal. Every time I see it, I have great memories of the race. Well, see, that's a very special race, though.
It doesn't take up a lot of room.
No, and that's an incredibly special race. And I have to say that for my marathons, I've kept all of those medals, but I've often thought they really don't spark joy. Not all of them. But if I ran the Boston Marathon, that's a medal that I would love to have. By the way, there's a phenomenal race in the ultra marathoners run. I actually hooked all my friends up to run it because I thought I really wanted to run it. It's in South Africa, and it's called the Comrades. And it's this race that goes either from the mountains to the sea or from the sea to the mountains. And it's so big that in South Africa, they televise it. And around the world, it's known as maybe one of the biggest, most badass ultra marathons. And I don't remember how many.
Are you doing this?
What's that?
Are you doing this, Joe?
Well, I was going to do it, and then I ran my best time at the Memphis Marathon, but I kept blacking out, and I was like, I have trouble with 26.2. So for me to go run, I don't know how long Comrades is, 50, 60 miles, maybe 65 miles.
At once, in one day?
Well, yeah, at one time. And you have a time limit, but that's a whole different show. But the Comrades medal, which people that run that stuff think is the best, the biggest and the best, has a medal that's just tiny. It's this little tiny medal you get for finishing it.
Meaningful.
But yes. Well,
it's like dancing with the stars. They get a disco ball. It's meaningful.
Yes.
They get the disco ball trophy on Dancing with the Stars.
That little tiny medal.
Joe talks about marathons. I'm talking Dancing with the Stars. But I would, it's really cool when you win the disco ball. It's a big deal. It's meaningful. It sparks joy.
That little tiny medal would be the biggest medal in my collection if I won it. And Glenn, the Boston Marathon finisher medal, absolutely. Lori's here. Hey, Lori. Lori says nonprofits give to dust collectors, to donors. Newsflash, people give because they want to be philanthropic, not because they want the lapel pin or coffee mug. It's totally about the joy of giving and not about the stuff. I totally agree with that. Nice. I don't, and you know what's funny? Now when I sign up for 5Ks or 10K runs, they always give you the free t-shirt. I tell them to keep the t-shirt because I don't need another t-shirt. Like it's going to end up someplace. The t-shirt doesn't spark joy anymore. Being in the race does. I'm like, you know what? You guys are usually raising money for something. So forget my t-shirt and do that. Same thing I think about what Lori's talking about. Ryan's here. Ryan says, I usually don't care for the race medals either, except my Iron Man, in all capitals, Maryland medal. That one still gives us the feels.
Applause.
Holy cow. George is here, said he couldn't finish 2 episodes. Too clean for George, apparently. Way too clean. Hillary says, most Japanese speak quite a bit of English. They learn English in school, but they don't think it's very good since they haven't used it since high school and tend to not speak it much out of a sense of mild embarrassment. She does speak English from time to time on the show, but not very much. And Eric is here. He says he's not sure what he'd do with a disco ball. Hello, Eric, you dance.
Yes.
You dance, Eric.
That's some music and dance.
Yes. Friday night at Eric's house. Going to dance. All right. In just a second, we're going to try to tie this disco ball discussion with our discussion about Starbucks earlier. How are Bobby and I going to do that? We'll tell you in just a second. But first, I want to talk just a little bit about Lemonade, because when I went for renter's insurance and for homeowner's insurance, I couldn't believe it was going to take 90 seconds. Like I'd already heard about Lemonade. I knew about the fintech stuff. I thought it was a pretty neat company because of the way that they do things differently from underwriting to the whole process. But when I actually went, and it actually took me 90 seconds to get a quote, it was incredible. And so when I was a financial planner, I used to tell people every couple of years, go look at your homeowner's insurance and see if you can get a better rate. And whether Lemonade can or not, I don't know. They did for me. I got a huge discount on my renter's insurance and a small discount on my homeowner's insurance now. But whether they do or not, it's 90 seconds to compare. So here's what you do. Use our link, stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade, and you'll be able to get a very quick quote. And maybe listening to the show or hanging out with us on Facebook today just saved you a bunch of money. How about that, Bobby? We pay you to watch the show.
I love that. I love that. They also have some cool features with video at Lemonade, which I think are impressive.
Yes. Everybody, you're welcome. stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade. All right, let's talk about this. I had a hard time coming up with a way to tie these together because first we talked about the value of partnerships and focusing on your key stuff, right? And then with Marie Kondo, we talked about tidying up and about units of joy. And all of a sudden I realized, Bobby, there's another guru in the organizing space, a guru that you apparently haven't heard, David Allen. You don't know David Allen? Yes. No. Getting Things Done is also a fantastic book on organization. And David Allen says this, and this is my big takeaway today. It is, David Allen says, you want to be like water. And talk about Japanese philosophy or Eastern philosophy in general. You want to be like water. And it's tough to be like water. You know, for Starbucks to get involved with Uber Eats and to see this as an opportunity meant they had to be aware that this possibility existed. And if you're dealing with tons of clutter in your life, you're so busy picking up these little things around you, you're not noticing the way that the world is flowing. And the Uber is slowly taking over everything. You need to be on top of what's going on around you to see that. And again, with Marie Kondo, how can you make this place be home-like and be and spark joy when you've got just junk all over the place? Being like water and taking advantage of opportunities can only happen when you clean up all those messes. And I think, Bobby, that's our takeaway for today.
Well said, Joe.
Thank you.
That makes a lot of sense. Now I got more reading to do because I interview a lot of authors on Financial Grown Up. I read a lot of books. Got to read some more.
You will totally love David Allen and Getting Things Done. Great recommendation. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us today, everybody on Facebook. If you want to hang out with us on Facebook when we make these, head to facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. Otherwise, we'll just see you next time. Go stack some Benjamins. Bye-bye.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and comes to your ears because of the collective genius of our producer, Richie Rutter-Reese, engineer, Caden Thompson, and a pack of very well-trained ferrets here in the basement. You'll find links to all of our headlines featured on today's show in Joe's Twitter feed at @AverageJoeMoney. I know you already know this too, but Money in the Morning is for entertainment purposes only. You shouldn't act on anything recommended by a bunch of entertainers in a basement without first consulting with your financial advisor and second, having your head examined. Have a headline you'd like us to discuss? Send them to Joe at stackingbenjamins.com or put them on our Stacking Benjamins Basement closed Facebook group. This show is copyright 2018 Stacking Benjamins LLC, all rights reserved. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I reserve the right to always say, we'll see you next time back here on Money in the Morning.